Well, that's not anything to say. That's just it was young Doris. That's not even who's Doris. Doris isn't here tonight, actually. We have shut up. All right, you guys ready? Are you guys ready? Well, make some noise. Let her hear it. Keep it going for Rosie O'Donnell.
What are you, 28? Is that how old you are? 29, you see? That's the age of kids who are at the formative years when League of Their Own came out. And those kids really, really identify with those movies. Really. In fact, it's not the order I wanted to tell this, but what the hell. I actually went to the Net game last night with Penny Marshall. Freaking riot. And we recently did that show, Hollywood Game Night. You know, where Jane Lynch is the host, and there's like 3 celebrities, and then a contestant against 3 celebrities and a contestant. So it was me and Penny and Chris Colfer from Glee. You know, Kurt, the cute little gay one. And they have a game where Jane tells you the name of a TV show. She shows it to the 2 celebrities. And let's say that it says Breaking Bad. And then you have to say how many words it will take you to get your teammate to say the name of the show. Sort of like Name That Tune, only with words and with. So let's say it said Breaking Bad. You would say 2 words, crystal meth, right? And then the people would go, oh, Breaking Bad, right? Okay, so everyone else is going 5 words, 4 words. Penny gets up there. Taught her to get up. You know, she's like in her 70s now. She's got her thick glasses. She's wearing all the, you know, NBA championship rings. I don't know what the hell the thing is with basketball nerds. But okay. She gets up there, they show her the word, she buzzes in. She goes, 1 word! It's like, holy shit, 1 word. What the hell is it gonna be? They say, okay, Penny, go ahead. She goes, Korea! Everyone's like, what the fuck, Korea? What is it? And I go, MASH. Yes, how the hell did you get that? She said Korea. It's not Korea at all. She has such a distinctive dialect and accent. I'm convinced the reason that I had a career in movies, because the movie I did, Doris Murphy, League of Their Own, she only had a small part. I ended up being in a lot of the movie because no one else could understand what Penny Marshall was saying. So there were 20 young actresses. She'd come down and she'd say, okay, Bernice Body, got slide of the third, a bull can come over, you had to run after her, look up, with the kind of bull, the floor to the dead, the way you try, you got a hot dog in your mind, what do that? Everyone's going, what the fuck is she saying? And I'm like, I'll do it. Rosie again! Oh, Jesus! Those other girls, Rosie, they don't seem to give a shit about their whole career! Did you say career or Korea? Career! It was a fun movie. Everybody had to play baseball before you could be in the film, which was really kind of funny. You know, my agent called and said, can you play baseball? And I'm like, if there's one thing I can do better than Julia Roberts, I'm pretty sure it's baseball. I was the only actress in Hollywood who could throw from third to first. And that's why I got the part. It was funny because we would be at the batting cages, like, you know, the day before Sunday, before the Monday audition, and everybody was warming up, and there were all these, you know, Julia Roberts and Teresa Russell, you know, that actress, and Anne Benning, Annette Benning, she was there. They all had like matching coordinated spandex outfits. You know, it was so funny. Julia Roberts came over to me because I was hitting the ball and she was waiting on deck, and I could really hit the ball. She came over and she's like, "Hey, Ro, how do you do that?" And I'm like, "Well, you might want to hold the thin end of the bat." Like pretty woman, get out there. Go ahead. I'm sure you can do it, Jay. Go, hit it, honey. That was my first movie, and I had seen Truth or Dare on a Sunday night. And I was with my boyfriend, swear to God, at the time. Like the last act, 2 more years. Everyone goes through a phase, it's okay. This man, Michael, and we were together for about 1.5 years. And then I realized, aside from the huge cysts on his back that I could pop, we really didn't get along that well. That, to me, is the biggest downfall of being a lesbian. There's really no good cysts to pop on the back of your average. Sorry, that's way too gross. You're not a popper, like I'm the only one who goes to popthatsit.com. Seriously, I'm the only one. You don't watch the earwax videos where they take the earwax? Okay, well, I totally misjudged the crowd. I'm really sorry. Let me back it up a little bit. So I went to see the movie with Michael, and he said to me, "You know, Ro, I think if you met her, you would be really good friends, me and Madonna." And I turned to him, I said, "What kind of an idiot are you? She's the most famous person in the world, the biggest star, singer, rock star. I'm a comedian. I'm never going to meet her." The next day, Penny Marshall calls me off the field. "Rosie, Madonna's coming in tomorrow. If she likes you, what she likes me, she'll do the movie, so try to be funny." I swear to God, I had diarrhea for 24 hours. There's a lot of pressure, and I thought, how do you connect to her? What do you say to the most famous woman in the world? How do you make that initial, I said, "Hello, I have a vibrator." No, I didn't. It was funny, too, because she was the first person I ever met whose mother had died when they were a child. And she was the first person I ever met who was named after that mom who died. A very weird experience, Like in the movie, there was a scene where she goes to her mother's grave and she sees her own name. And then she lays down, right? I had that same exact experience. And I had never met another person who did. And so when we met, that's the first thing I told her. It was like, boom, right away. We were like siblings. It didn't, it all went away, that whole Madonna thing, But it didn't go away for other people. Because for you, watch your back. Coming through. Holy shit, who's drinking that? Are you drinking that? You two soccer playing lesbians? Oh, I thought you were drinking that. Yeah, I thought you were drinking that foofy martini shit. No, you got the beer with the orange in it. Okay, all right. You threw me off there. I know, I'm sorry. I don't know what I was thinking. You're the one who lost the weight. Yes, I remember now. I met you. Yeah, good to see you. Yeah, it's funny, I haven't done stand-up in 10 years. This will be the longest bit I have done in 10 years, and I remember audience members. There's something wrong with that, isn't there? How could I forget? With the tattoo, that's right. Here at the mall. I've arrived, I'm at the mall! This is actually my mall. I lived in Niagara before the mall was open. Parker was a little baby, he was like 1 year old, and then this mall opened. Does anyone remember, like, opening week, they had Arthur the Aardvark, remember? You were here, I brought Parker. Okay, I brought Parker in a stroller, and my show had just started, and I came here, and it was a huge crowd, and Arthur the Aardvark was there, and he started to cry, and then people started to recognize me, and I wasn't really used to it then, and I started to have a little bit of panic attack, so I went home to my house, right on Broadway, Helen Hayes' house. Parker's taking a nap, and I hear the front gate buzz. and I look out my front window, and there is 14-foot-tall stuffed Arthur. Hello, it's Arthur, the artwork, and we hear that Parker came to see me, but that you had to leave early, so we decided to come to you. I thought fame is going to fuck up my family. What happens to a baby when they're given that kind of access? He was still painting his wall with poop. He did that, Parker. We called it Picasso. When the mall first opened, there was all kinds of rumors that it was sinking. Remember that? Yeah. Do you think it is? Well, the floors crack and then they try to carpet it. Remember there's a time where it's carpeted, and now the new mall opened and this mall got an inferiority complex. And there's signs everywhere. I swear to God, we're improving it. Just stick with us. There's now a guest service area. I swear to Christ, another Starbucks. Give me something. Yeah, then you lost the Apple store. Fuck, we know. I'm sorry. It's the worst thing to happen to Rockland County, to lose that Apple store. I can't believe that it's been that long. I really can't. It goes quick. I have 5 children, 18, 16, 14, 11, and 1. People say to me, why the hell did you have a baby after having all those grown kids? I'm like, well, because 3 of them are teenagers, and I needed to remind myself that I actually love children. Parker was supposed to be a girl. I was a single woman. I went to the adoption agency and filled out all the forms. Unlike some women, I always knew I would adopt. My mom died when I was 10, and I was raised by a public school teacher who in 7th grade took me under her wing and mothered me, and I learned that love was not made by blood and that families could be created in every kind of way. So, I knew I would adopt. I did ask that I have a girl because I knew that I was gay and that I was not going to have a husband, and I thought, well, what's going to happen when that kid gets to be older and like he wants to use the restroom? And I swear to God, I created this. You know The Secret? How you can create shit? I created that entire thing from the time he was a baby, because there were many times when my show was on, when we would come to the movie theater here in this mall, next to that new shrimp place, which is not so good. They have this Wheel of Fortune thing on the front to try to lure you in. Has anyone even tried the shrimp place? Yeah, it's very weird. Every time I go, there's like new lights and decorations, and now there's like a really bad drawn chalk Wheel of Fortune. Like we're at some kind of carnival. Anyway, I was at that movie theater, and I would try to convince him to go into the women's room when he was like 5 years old. I'm like, come on, honey, you have to go in there. He goes, no, Mom, I have to go wee-wee. I go in my own bathroom. I'm like, no, you are not. You were going in my bathroom. He's like, no. I go, that says women and children. No, it doesn't, Mommy. Clara, you will go into the bathroom with me. And then everyone's like, oh my God, isn't that Rosie O'Donnell and her son? Fame is very hard at the mall. It is a great bonus at an emergency room. No matter who you are, if you're famous and you're in an emergency room, they're going to see you first. Someone could be hemorrhaging from their eyeballs, missing a limb, a knife protruding, and in walks Tootie with a headache, and boom, right through. I love the facts of life. You were fantastic. It does help in an emergency room. Parker was supposed to be a girl. He was supposed to be born 6 weeks from when I made the arrangement to be his mom. 2 days later, I got a phone call. You have a son. He's only 4.5 pounds. I started to cry. I thought, what am I going to do with the son? Maybe this could be, I don't know. God doesn't make mistakes. Because I fell so madly in love with this boy. I can't even begin to tell you. He came home, and they said if he got under 4 pounds, he had to go back to the hospital. They gave me a scale. I had to weigh him 3 times a day. I often weighed him with the wet diaper on. Because I did not want to bring him back to the hospital. I read a lot of books on adopting, and they said that babies can often smell their biological mothers when they're in the womb, and that when you have an adopted child, you should try to keep the child skin to skin and not wash for as long as you can stand it so that the child will get used to your scent. I was Sasquatch for about 3 months. To bond with this baby. When he was about 2 months old, Rita Wilson, Tom Hanks' wife, she came over, a friend of mine, and she was changing his diaper with me, and she said, "Oh, Rosie, why didn't you get him circumcised?" I thought I had. I had signed the form to get him circumcised. I changed his diaper. I didn't dwell down there, you know. I'm not all that familiar with the peni. Unless the ones that are in my nightstand drawer, but they're totally different. They don't move on their own, and what surprised me about men, and I didn't know this, the plumbing works from the time you were just born. I thought when we were having that class movie film strip in 4th grade, learning about our friend Margaret and wanted to buy a white dress, but she couldn't until her friend arrived. I thought they were getting the same speech about getting excited in the morning and everything. I didn't know it all started to work right away. 2 months old, I'm changing his diaper, boom, baby boner. I didn't know what to do. I had a panic attack. I took a Q-tip, I pushed it down, I tried to cover it with the diaper. I didn't want anyone to, I didn't want to touch it, you know, child abuse and all. I called the doctor, I said, well, something's wrong with him, his thing is, it's going, it's doing, he's not a teenager, he's 2 months old, it's up there, it's frightening me. The doctor said, baby boner, calm down, Lesbo, it's okay. That called for it, really, sir. He's grown up to a beautiful man, he really has. He's like 6'1", he's stunning. When he was 16, he broke up with me. Any other moms here? Worse than any breakup I've ever had in my life. He started rolling his eyes at me. Started thinking I was an idiot. I made him go to therapy with me. I'm like sobbing in therapy. Like, he's like, you know, Mom, you're really weird. Other people's mothers don't do this shit. You're hurting me. When he was really little, he was like 5 years old, we were on the beach. He was talking to some of Kelly's, my ex, her relatives, born-again Christians from the South. He came back to the blanket and he said, you know, Mommy, some people think it's wrong for two mommies to be together, that everybody needs a mommy and a daddy. I said, I know there are people who think that. He goes, well, I think I'm one of those people. I said, well, honey, here's the deal. If you were a kid who was going to have a mommy and a daddy, I wouldn't be the mommy, because I'm the kind of mommy who wants another mommy. I'm not the kind of mommy who wants a daddy. And he waited like a full 2 minutes. He looked at me, he looked around, he goes, all right, I guess I'll just keep you. But that kid waited out, you know. It's about 7. I said, what would be great about having a dad? What are the good things? What do you think you're missing? He goes, well, baseball. I'm like, well, you're lucky. Because your mommy is really good at baseball. And he was a kid who did not like baseball. He liked playing Warhammers and Army Men, and he had no interest in sports at all. So we went out, got him 2 minutes, we threw the ball like 2 times. He's like, okay, I won't say it anymore. When he got to be about 12 or 10, or I gave him the speech about private part touching. You know, I'm like, here's the deal, honey. I know you get to be a little older and start to have hair under your arms. And, you know, when you're in your room alone, you're allowed to explore your body. You're allowed to touch your private parts, but you're the only one who can do that. Other people are not allowed to touch your private parts, and you shouldn't share this with your siblings. You're the oldest. This is just because you're a big boy now. And you can, you know, figure out what feels nice to you, but it's not something to talk about, and it's just something for privacy. I thought I did really well, you know. About 3 days later, he comes downstairs and he goes, Mommy, remember that talk we had? And I'm like, yes, I do. He goes, am I the only one who's ever going to get to touch my private parts? I said, well, no, honey, you're going to get older, and you're going to fall in love, and you're going to meet someone, and they're going to want to touch your private parts, and you're going to want to touch their private parts. But you have to wait until you're old enough, or else you could ruin it for your whole life. And he said, really? Well, how old do I have to be? And I said, I don't know, 21, 18. He said, I'm totally taking 18. And I'm happy to report he has. What can you do? What can you do? What can you do? My best friend Jackie does not allow her 23-year-old son, who lives with his girlfriend, to sleep in the same bed in her house. Is that just like willful blindness? What is that? She's like, it's not respectful. I'm like, they can fuck 3 miles away. I don't know. I have a 16-year-old daughter, and I can say there is a double standard between boys and girls. And I would think that myself, as an ardent feminist, I would not be one of those people who had a double standard, but I did. Found porno on the computer, assumed it was my son, until I realized in the Google search was the word penis. I said, honey, before you look at them, you should know how to spell them. Secondly, I'm really not that sure it's something you want to see. Could be the lesbian part of me, but I don't know. I have straight women friends who aren't going around. I saw the most lovely penis. It's very elephant chunky, it's smushed, it hangs. It's not an appealing part of the anatomy, is what I'm saying. For a lesbian, it's probably worse, but I know. Listen, you're heterosexual, you didn't choose it, it's not your fault. There's nothing you can do about having to deal with the penises. I don't know why I chose you, I just did it randomly. I couldn't choose that table, look at that table. This is lesbians on parade right here. I like that David Beckham haircut. Nobody knows you're gay. People might know, but it's okay because now we're equal. The Supreme Court said so. I always thought all lesbians looked like you and me, like, because I really, truthfully, if I wasn't on stage, I have that same vest, frankly, I do. Remember, I rocked that crazy hair for a while, that weird lesbian haircut, that wasn't good for anyone. But I met my wife at a Starbucks 3 years ago. I was at Starbucks, and she was holding a puppy, like a 2-pound Pomeranian puppy. She was in front of me with heels, and she is tiny, like a size 2, and she was all dressed up, and her hair was perfect, and I didn't think for 1 minute she was gay, nor did I really think that about it. I just thought she had this puppy, and my daughter was going to get a puppy, so I said, how's the puppy? And she said, oh, it's this kind, you think it'd be good for a 14-year-old? We start talking, and then I said, you know, fair warning, you're going to get the puppy, and then you're going to have a baby, because that's what happened to me. I got the small dog first. She said, I'm trying to have a baby. I said, I'm sure you and your husband would have it. She said, I don't have a husband. I said, oh, so you and your boyfriend? She said, I don't have a boyfriend. I said, oh, you're doing it as a single woman. She said, yes, I just ended a lesbian relationship because my partner didn't want to have a baby, so I'm going to be doing it on my own.
We go whenever you guys ready, okay?
You're telling me you're a lesbian? I said to her. She said, yeah. I said, you're like a Lindsay Lohan, Anne Heche lesbian. It's like lesbian for an hour and a half, but you're not really in downtown going there lesbian. Give me an easy pass to the Holland Tunnel kind of lesbian. You need a real lesbian.
8237.
Do you have high heels on? She's like, where have you been? You know? You really, I'm a lesbian. I've been out since I'm 22. And she looks so young. I'm like, oh, what are you now? And she was like 38. So I'm like, wait a minute, you're a 38-year-old lesbian who wants to have a child.
97.
She's like, yes. And you're single. Yes. And you have a cute puppy. Yes. And then we're walking outside. She gets into her Porsche. And I go, is that your car? She's like, yes. I thought I was on Punk'd with Ashton Kutcher. But this is someone trying to set me up, right? She is very girly. She really is, and very beautiful. And she's totally gay. Trust me, really. I tried to trick her, but she is. She's a lesbian. We fell in love. We got married. Everything was great. We decided to go up to Napa Valley. Everything was perfect. The kids were good. I felt good. She felt good. 39, almost 40. For her 40th birthday, we decided to go up there. And on Mother's Day, in Napa Valley, she had a stomach ache. And I said, how bad is the stomach ache? She goes, well, I don't know. And we're driving, and then we see an emergency room, so we stop, and we go in, and they say, well, it's probably a burst ovarian cyst. We said, all right, we kept going. Well, she got sicker and sicker. She started throwing up. Sicker and sicker and sicker and sicker. Turns out she has this thing called desmoid tumors. 1 in 3 million people get them. It's a sarcoma. It's a cancer. It grew in her stomach. It grabbed her colon. I thought, this can't be true. How do you fall in love and happier than you've ever been, and then boom, you get hit by that, you know? We spent 40 nights in the hospital. No doctor knew what she had. We couldn't fly out of San Francisco. She was too ill. Finally, Sharon Bless, who I adore, rented a plane, flew to San Francisco, knocked on the door in the hospital, and said, I'm going to sit here until she's well enough to fly, and when she is, I'm going to fly you home to New York and get you the right doctor. And she did. So she had this very rare thing. She had to have surgery. She had it taken out. They said they didn't know what it was. They found out what it was, and it was a very frightening thing. And she came home. She felt a little bit better. We had gotten married right before the surgery. Privately, just she and I in a little place in New York City alone, just to make sure we had that done. We were scheduled to get married on August 17th. But now it's about August 1st, and she's well, she's feeling better, and I'm happy. And on August 14th, I had a heart attack.
Oh my God.
I was here at this mall. In one of the handicapped spaces by the Cheesecake Factory. Was a woman who I guess was about 400 pounds. I'm only saying that because I really wonder sometimes if it was a real person or an angel. Because here's this woman. Her walker was outside of the car. Her car door was open. Her steering wheel was this way, but she was stuck sitting in the car this way. Her legs were out and her arms were out, but her body was stuck in the car. She looked at me and said, will you help me? And I stopped and helped her. Now, Michelle at the time said, why didn't you go ask someone to help? But I didn't think of it. I helped her up, and it took very long. It took about 20 minutes. She felt embarrassed. I could tell. I felt bad for her. I also thought, if I don't start taking care of myself, this is going to be me in 25 years. I felt it was the ghost of Christmas future. So I helped her up, and she said thank you, and we went on our way. That was 9 a.m. in the morning. At about 1 o'clock, my son Blake says to me, Mommy, you look like a ghost. I said, I don't feel so good. My arms hurt, but I was sure they hurt from lifting this woman up. I didn't have radiating pain. I had a pain as if a bear had ripped both of my biceps, but it didn't radiate, and I felt for sure if you had a heart attack, it would feel like Mike Tyson punched you in the tit, right? I didn't know. I go to therapy. My therapist is British. She's over analytical.
Your glasses, okay?
I said, I met this woman, I felt bad, and now I have pain. Do you think I'm having a heart attack? She said, hey, you somatize everything, Rosie, don't you? Could it be, possibly, that you're feeling bad about yourself, that you might end up like that? And the pain that was all in your head. I said, it could be. I paid her the $250 and took my little Vespa home. I climbed up the stairs, felt like Mount Everest. By the time I got up the stairs, I fell right asleep. It was about 1:30. About 6 o'clock, Michelle woke me up. She said, I don't really feel good. She said, what do you feel like? I said, I'm so hot. Worse than any hot flash I ever had hot. Like inside a pizza oven hot. Like I might expire at any minute hot. Went downstairs, had 4 saltine crackers, then proceeded to throw up. Now ladies, pay attention. Pain in your arms, your neck, or your shoulders. Very hot, tired, like you've never been, and throw up. You're having a heart attack. I did not call 911. Michelle Googled it. She said to me, honey, you have 6 out of the 6 signs. I said, yeah, but really, what's the chance? I mean, wouldn't it feel like Mike Tyson punched me in the tit, honey? The truth is, like many women, I was very concerned about other people. I thought, what if somebody really was having a heart attack and they needed the ambulance? What if I called the ambulance and they came all the way here and then I wasn't even having a heart attack? What if it's just a panic attack? What if I go and tell the kids I have to go to the hospital? They're going to be afraid because Michelle has been sick for 3 months and they're terrified already. I'm just not going to do anything. I'm just going to wait. So you know what I did? I chewed 4 aspirin because I remembered that commercial from 1978. I was hedging my bets. And I had Michelle get 8 kitchen-size Ziploc bags and fill them with ice. I slept on 4 of the bags, and I put 4 of the bags on my body. I woke up the next day, and I felt better, but still kind of sick. My son says, "Mommy, you look worse than yesterday." I go, "I know, I don't really feel good. I wonder what I should do." I spent the day doing nothing, not eating. So now it's Tuesday night. I do the same trick with the ice. Wednesday at 6 p.m. More than 60 hours later, I went into the hospital. The doctor said, "You have had a massive heart attack, and we're going to take you into the emergency room right away." I started to cry. I was like, "I don't want to have a heart attack." He's like, "Well, it doesn't work that way, honey, and we don't have a lot of time to argue, so get your ass over." So I went over to the hospital. All of the women who were there at the cath lab were amazing. They were all about the age of those women right there. When I got there, thank you, naked, vulnerable, laying down, all of them said, "Doris Murphy, I can't believe it! That's my favorite movie. Do you mind? I have to shave your pubic hair." That's fantastic! They have to shave your pubic hair because they go in through your groin or through your wrist to see whether your arteries are okay. They went in and they do the right arteries first, because the left is the LAD that supplies the blood to 70 to 80% of your body. If that artery is blocked, you usually are dead. They call that one the widowmaker. They check the other 2 first. You're in a semi-conscious state. You're sedated like you are sort of with a colonoscopy. But I was awake and I could hear everything. They did the first 2 and they said, "Pristine." And they said, "There's probably not going to be anything. We'll be right back." They left. They went to talk to Michelle. They came back and they said to me, "Miss O'Donnell, would you like to be shot back to life if it's necessary?" For once in my life, I was adamantly pro-life. I said, "Yes, sir, anything that has to do with me living, I would like you to do as soon as possible." With that, they knocked me out. I woke up. I was in the cardiac intensive care unit, and my good friend Natasha Leone, who was on Orange is the New Black, you know that, she had had heart surgery 2 years before, and Michelle and I were with her through that, so she came to relieve Michelle. Michelle was at home taking a shower, and I woke up in a haze, and I thought for a second that I had died, and Natasha Leone was gone. Which she said isn't far from the truth. When she was in the middle of a conversation with the nurse, she said, "Compared to everyone else who had what Rosie had, how is she doing?" And the nurse said, "Excellent." And Natasha said, "How do you know?" And the nurse said, "Because everyone else is dead." I had 100% blockage of my LAD for over 60 hours. And I did not die. And 2 months later, when they took the MRI of my heart to see if I would need a transplant, or what kind of damage was done to the heart vessel being deprived of blood for that much time, there was no damage. I'm now enrolled in this Harvard study for women who have heart attacks who sometimes are brought on by stress, where they call it heartbreak syndrome. So I was so upset about Michelle being so sick and dying that you almost give yourself a heart attack with the pain of your emotions, not being able to talk about how you're feeling. Yeah. Michelle said that I did it because she was getting all of the attention from having a desperate. My narcissism pisses her off. I got well. I'm very lucky. I had to lose weight. The doctor said to me, "You need to lose 60 pounds. If you don't lose 60 pounds, you will have a heart attack again." Very hard to do for me to lose weight. Very hard when people who are not heavy don't understand why heavy people are heavy, right? And they say stupid things like, "You know, when you go out and you are hungry, just bring like Tupperware with you and cut up the carrots. And if you want, let's say, a cookie or a cupcake, just grab a carrot." I'm like, oh my God, are you kidding me? I just cured obesity in America. Only I had thought of that. While I was in the hospital, the nutritionist came by and gave me a fruit basket. Michelle then said, "You've got to start eating fruit," handed me some Bing cherries. I ate the Bing cherries, and my tongue blew up the size of a blimpy club sandwich. I went into anaphylactic shock in the CCU unit from eating a fucking fruit. All the doctors were like, we didn't know what to do because you have to get epinephrine, which is speed, and adrenaline, which makes your heart pump, and I just had a stent put in, but I was just for something. They had to give me 2 shots of epi in my leg. And then they brought this woman around who had the jewelry, the medical ID bracelet. She said, you have to get this and wear it because anaphylactic shock is a very serious thing. So I had one made up for you. And she hands it to me and it says, cherries. I'm like, why didn't you write unicorn and fairy dust? You wear a fucking depressed cherries! I love cherries! So embarrassing, right? I hate it. The greatest thing that happened, though, in November, we got a phone call that there was a birth mother who was looking for 2 months. That she did not want the baby to be around in the house with a dad. She had her own reasons for this, very sad. The lawyer said to me, do you know 2 women who are ready and willing to adopt? Now, Michelle had been trying to get pregnant for 2 years before I met her. After she was diagnosed with desmoid tumors, they told her she could not risk getting pregnant because they are estrogen receptor positive, these tumors. So I said to her, would you at all be interested in, she goes, well, I don't know, find out the details. And they said it was a redhead mother who was pregnant with a baby that probably would have red hair because she had a 1-year-old with her who had red hair. And Michelle is a redheaded woman who wanted a baby girl, right? And I'm thinking, this is too freaky, right? So I said, well, tell her that it's me, and tell her that I've had a heart attack and that my wife had cancer, and that we have 4 children, and just tell her what, and the woman said yes, right away. So a year ago, this January, we were in the room when she pushed out our little baby girl. She is the absolute most happy baby I have ever been around in my life. The birth mother said, this children's going to be child. She's going to be chill. She's not going to be... I said, what do you mean? And this was like her 4th child. She said, all my other babies were flipping around in utero. This baby is totally calm. She only gets a little excited about 6 o'clock dinner time when I eat. She moves a little bit, but she's totally, and she is like the Zen Buddha baby. She is so freaking happy. Today she took 12 steps. Obviously an Olympian. But it's very annoying to be the mother of 5 children and to have been married to a woman who this is her 1st child. Because you know the difference between your 5th child and the 1st child, right? She's boiling the bottles, she's pouring alcohol on the bottom of the shoes. We went to her first doctor visit, it was a little bit icy. We get out of the car, I pick up the baby chair, and she says to me, are you sure-footed? Am I sure-footed? No, I normally drop the children when I'm on the way into the pediatric appointment. She did not let the baby sleep in the bed with us for the first 2 months because she said, I read the literature and you could roll over and you could kill that baby. Like, is that a fat joke? Is that something about my weight? The first night we were at the hotel, 4 Seasons in Beverly Hills. I said, give me the baby, I'll put the baby on my chest, the baby will sleep on me. She said no and took the drawer out of the dresser, took towels and lined the drawer, put the drawer on the floor, and then slept on the floor next to the baby. I snored my ass off and I came back. I ain't doing any of this shit, honey. That out for yourself. But it's beautiful having a baby at this age and being sort of sure, you know, of yourself as a parent, rather than at the very beginning when you're positive that everything you do, they could possibly die. She fell out of the bed the other night. She sleeps in the king-side bed with us, and apparently she climbed over Michelle Zanek's body. And I don't know, she fell and, she cried, of course. So she was fine, she didn't have a bump. She did, Michelle, hysterical for 2.5 hours. She could have a concussion, this could be brain damage, how do you know there's not a leak? There could be a blood leak. I'm like, well, you get her dressed, let's take her on over to Nyack Hospital. No, I can't do that, I'll be too ashamed. Will you say that you dropped her? I didn't know how much I would care about that Supreme Court thing, But I realized if you lived your whole life feeling that you are somehow less than, and then the president and the government says you're not, it's a huge weight lifted off you that you never realized was there. I was walking through a parking lot and I saw 2 teenage girls holding hands. They were like 16, 17, and I stopped them. And I said, I'm really sorry, but I'm just so surprised in my lifetime to see, like, are you high school students? And they're looking at me like, yeah. I go, what grade are you in? I'm in 12th, I'm in 11th. And you're a couple? Yeah. Well, you're a couple like in school? Like you guys are a couple? And yeah. And your parents know? Uh-huh. And they're okay with it? And everybody's okay with it, lady? I'm like, no, okay, no, well, I'm actually gay. They said, well, good for you. It's really not going the way I planned it. I thought it was going to be really touching and moving. For me, yes. For them, no. They're like, why are you asking us this? I said, it's just that when I was in high school, this was not a possibility. Nobody even, it's just very touching, especially in light of the Supreme Court ruling, to see how far that we've come. And they go, okay, can we go? And I said, yeah. And then they're like, what's your name? And I said, Rosie. And they go, all right, good luck to you, Rosie. There was something beautiful about it because there was a time where every single person knew my name. Every single person. And fame is hard. It really is. You don't think it's going to be when you're wishing for it, but once you have it, you can't get rid of it. No matter what. And, like a stupid example, but when I was on my show, if I said I was thirsty, and then went and did my show and came back to my dressing room, there were like 17 cases of Snapple. People just want so much to give you what you have given them that it skews your reality of being a normal person. It really does. And even though I left my show sort of at the height of it, people couldn't understand why. Well, my oldest son was 7. And I knew that he had a chance for a normal life if I could somehow get myself back down to earth and become normal myself. So my goal for his first year in Upper Nyack Elementary School was to pick him up every single day myself, which may not seem like a big deal, but when somebody's been driving you around for 6 years, it was a big deal. I had to show up a half an hour early because I did not know how to parallel park. So it was me and this one other very neurotic mother named Sharon, and we became really good friends. She was there a half an hour early because she was worried something was going to happen to her girls. What an idiot. I was there half an hour early because I didn't know how to park like a normal human being. Sometimes the cops would go, because if I was a little late, I parked like in the spot you're not supposed to park. It's not handicapped, but it had the lines in it, like don't park here because a bus has to turn or something. But I would park there if I had to because I could not be there when they came out the door. And a police officer came and said to me, you can't park there with the stripes. I'm like, oh yeah, I know. He goes, well, it's like a $70 ticket. I said, that's fine, put it right on there. Deluded, right? You become deluded. I used to think they should make celebrity rehab. Like for, not the one that's on TV now, but like just for people who are famous and are now like leaning towards obscurity to teach you how to do things like order straight off the menu. Actually wait in line at the movie theater for a ticket. Like shit that you don't have to do, right? Parker was like 8 years old before we got a bill at a restaurant. When it came, he said, what is that? And I said, that's the check. He said, for what? I said, you have to pay for your food. He said, really? That's when I knew it was time for me to leave. Now my 2 younger kids have no understanding at all that I was ever known in any capacity. At 14 and 11, they don't have any clue. My daughter is obsessed with Ellen. All she talks about is Ellen. Mommy, Ellen has an app. Ellen has a show where she gets to meet One Direction and The Wanted. Why can't you be Ellen? I said, well, honey, I was Ellen before Ellen was Ellen. But I left so that I could be home with you. Well, that is a shitty idea. she is fearless. When I was doing the Oprah show on the OWN network, she would walk right into Oprah's office. Now, I don't know about you people, but Oprah makes me nervous still. I can't be around her without going, holy shit, it's Oprah! You know, it's weird, her power. She's like otherworldly. It's not normal, right? Vivi walks right into her office. Says, how you doing? You know, you haven't seen Mom in a while. Why don't you come with me? I look out the window and there's Oprah in rollers holding my 7-year-old's hand who's walking her across the street to see me. When that show ended, I had to tell Vivi. I said, Viv, you know, I'm not going to be in Chicago anymore. I'm coming home and I'm not going to do that show. Oh my God. Do you mean you have ruined my relationship with Oprah? I said, I guess I did, honey. Why couldn't you have been like her? Be nice to people, help people in poor countries, and give away stuff! I know, but what can you do? I don't remember those children. There are no reruns, because we were a live show, and when you're a live show, you don't have to pay for music clearance. So every time I pressed a button and did music, right, they would have to pay for that if it reran. But when it was live, and for one re-showing in that calendar year, that's all you had. So that show lived and died within those 6 years. That was it. It's okay. No, I don't have the tapes. I don't have anything. No, I have nothing. But I made some great friendships. You have them, of course, the lesbian table back there. The 8-year-old, I was 6 years old, and I have every VHS, bitch! Yeah, it's a little bit of a bummer, but it's okay. Because, you know, it's good to move on, I think. The past is the past, right? Cyndi Lauper is a good friend of mine, and she just won the Tony Award. And I was performing with her just a few nights ago in New York City at home for the holidays. And she was telling everyone how important it is to vote. You know, she's really into getting people to vote. And I said to her, why are you doing that speech now? It's not the election year. It's not, I know, but there were so many issues, Wozy, that are really important. And I didn't realize about voting for so many years that I had to really tell her. I said, all right. So before I went on, you know, she said, okay, coming up next is my good friend Wozy O'Donnell. She's going to tell you some jokes. But before I bring her up here, just want to remind all of you, it's really important to participate in this government and to vote. So vote any way you have to do it. You can vote online, you can vote wherever. Please welcome Wozy O'Donnell. I didn't know what to do, right? So I take her, I go, be right there, take her, I go, Cyndi, you cannot vote online. That's American Idol. What am I going to do now? I said, I don't know what the hell you're going to do. But you better say something and straighten it out before I go with you. All right, apparently, there was a little bit of a miscommunication. At this point, you